Now it's July 1st, and the first half of our fall plantings takes place today. We've been working on our clover fields a lot. We have, just off the top of my head, about 10 small hunting plots that are clover. They total about 3.5 acres out of 18 acres, 18.5 acres of overall food plots. We have about 15 acres of buckwheat growing right now, and that is that build up to our fall plots. So half of our best food plot mix this year is taking place right now, meaning we're planting into all this buckwheat. This buckwheat is so critical. You know, we've talked about it all the time. Very important for limiting weeds, limiting soil erosion, greenhouse effect in the ground, building up the soil, and it's easy to lay down and plant into. So this half on this field right here, and half of all of our big fields, we'll be putting into a blend on July 1st, you know, July 2nd, tomorrow is when it's being planted. We'll be planting into this, and that's a really important mix that'll bring us and really bring a lot of attraction into November. It's a mix that goes back to me about 25 years. We're mixing peas, beans, and buckwheat. This is a Mike McFadden mix special from the early 2000s. Someone I knew through the Michigan Sportsman's Forum way back in the day. Went to his property. I'm like, oh, it's a pretty good mix. Well, in the UP of Michigan on my plots, because it's wooded, we don't have the complement of all this ag food out there to feed the deer. Then this would get eaten down really fast, a mix of buckwheat, beans, peas, tillage radish. So I planted in the UP, and my soils up there, it just get demolished. So it wouldn't even last till middle of July, end of July. You could plant it middle of June, and it was gone. So a deer would just eat it down in the dirt. There just was nothing else there. So all this green stuff was wiped out. A little bit different scenario here in the ag land. For one, we have a little bit larger food plot system, but we have the complement of the ag. Right now, because we'll be planting this mix on July 2nd, we'll talk more about the mix and the timing, but because we're planting on July 2nd, then those does and fawns have already established their residency somewhere else. A lot of our clover fields, for example, have a trickle of a doe and a fawn, a couple does and their fawns moving through various clover fields, and they go all out into this ag. Well, they're not really moving around too much other than going through those clover fields, going out to the ag, going back to the woods. That's how they lived almost their entire life. So they're doing that on a daily basis, and they've established their summer fawning grounds already somewhere else. They don't move those around. Those are very territorial. There's a lot of competition for those areas. As those older matriarchs die, another offspring will take that spot. That's just what they do. That's what does and fawns have, that hierarchy. So that's a really common thing, you know, in the deer world. Very, very competitive fawning grounds. And you know what's interesting? Bucks take over off somewhere else outside of that. They don't want to be in that fawning ground mix. Let's face it, bucks, they disperse as a yearling to get away from that female social pressure. Last place they want to reside in when they disperse, about an average of 1.5 miles from their fawning grounds to where they end up, is a place that's dominated by does and fawns. That's a big benefit to our plantings here, because if we planted this mix June 1st, right smack dab in the middle of fawning grounds, those fawns, does and fawns, would start to really funnel into these areas and put an unwanted amount of pressure on them all summer long. And then we're piling does and fawns on these food plots, so that when all this great fall food comes up that we rely on for building a herd, shaping buck age structure, improving sex ratios to give us a great hunt, those does and fawns are taking up space, they're eating these food plots really hard. They don't allow them to get that volume. And so this is a great time. We wait about a month after that fawning time. Now we can establish a mix like that. Also, this buckwheat, this is older buckwheat, and this buckwheat was actually planted on May 25th. And a little bit early, I'd rather have this buckwheat a little bit older. Next year we might stagger these buckwheat plantings. We could have planted this about 2 weeks earlier, probably about 1.5 foot higher. It'd be a waist high to belly high. But this right here is that great catalyst where the deer don't like eating it. You can see there's hardly anything nipped on out here anywhere in this field. They just don't eat it that much. However, it can act as a great nurse crop for the beans. We have quite a few beans per acre, and we're planting early enough that we should get a pod and we should get a bean. Those beans will last into the hunting season, and they won't be picked on an unwarranted amount this time of year during the summer, because the does and fawns have established residency somewhere else. Their doe factories are somewhere else, and that's a really good thing. Maybe on your land if you're a neighbor. That's a good thing. Keep them over there. You guys house them during the summertime. So we're getting this rut zone in. Brandon from First Choice Food Plots will come out and drill it. That's the one thing about that mix, we call it rut zone, is that it should be drilled, or if this buckwheat, if let's say we planted a little earlier, we could throw that seed into the standing buckwheat, and then we could roll it right over, and you can see the buckwheat. What's nice is when you roll it over with a cultipacker, it stays right down. Very easy to crush and stay. It's the only food plot variety or seed that will crush like that with a lawn roller, our Packer Max cultipacker, ATV tires, tractor tires, car tires, truck tires. Yes, we've used all of those. Really easy to crush right over. All those stalks and leaves and debris lay on top of the seed. You'll get good germination rates with those larger seeds. However, for us, right now, we want to drill that in. We want to show you guys some good examples of what it looks like. So Brandon will be out here tonight. We call it beer and coffee. And then Brandon will be around in the morning. We're going to look for some deer tonight, go on a family cruise with Brandon. And then tomorrow morning, first thing daylight, he's going to be planting. He will drill that mixture right into this. I'll follow up with the Packer Max, and I'm going to spray Liberty Ultra on this. We're using 2.5 to 3 quarts per acre, 2 pounds of ammonium sulfate per acre mixed with that. What's really nice about that is it has the power of the glyphosate 2,4-D mix, as far as it really will stomp out the broadleafs that are in here, any pigweed, goosefoot, water hemp, smartweed, whatever there is, thistle, will take care of that, and then there's no residual. So it doesn't matter. Our soil is damp right here. When Brandon pushes that seed down in, it's going to hit damp soil within a ½ inch. He'll probably put it down an inch, inch and a half. That seed will be just completely smothered by damp soil. We'll get germination out here within 5 to 7 days. So we'll get immediate germination. We've already had enough rain in the past. Perfect planting window. We get dry weather today, dry weather tomorrow morning, and then we get rain tomorrow afternoon. They're calling for rain the rest of the week. So we're going to get that seed in the ground. I'll spray and terminate this buckwheat. When this buckwheat lays like here, you can even mow it down some. But when the buckwheat's laying down like that, it has a tendency to start to pop up, back up, and grow again. And so when that's growing, it can start to actually compete with the young germinating plants down below. So I want to spray it. And what happens with this leaf structure, you look down in here, this leaf structure and branch structure is, if I just squeeze it, you can almost squeeze water out of it. But if you look at this right here, see how damp that is? This leaf structure, branch structure is 80% moisture. And so what happens is when you kill it, that moisture leaves, and these fine leaves and branches turn to dust. You're just left with the stems. That's a really good thing, so that there's no competition within a week. We've had last year, and Dylan, if you could pull that footage, but it's last year we sprayed on the 21st of July, planted on July 30th, and by then the field is completely brown and you have 80% soil exposure. So when those young germinating plants are coming up, they'll have no competition from the buckwheat, but the buckwheat's done a lot of good. And I'll try to pull one of these out here and we'll see how well it comes out. But see when these plants are getting a little bigger. Now these plants are not even, I would say these plants are, was that the 25th, so about 5 weeks old. I would have liked to terminate this about 7 weeks. 7 weeks, this cluster will be a lot bigger. But this is that root system, and you can see this fine organic matter coming down. That fine organic matter is what feeds the plants that follow. The leaf structure, that if it's worked into the soil at all, the branch that lays on top, not so much. And so when you look at sorghum, corn, rye that gets to 5-6 feet high, that doesn't feed, even though it's high organic matter, the plant that follows. It actually takes nutrients from the soil to break it down. This lays on top of the soil, so you don't need nutrients in the soil to break down. It just dries out, dies on top, eventually blows away, turns into part of dirt, soil, and organic matter, but not taking soil nutrients out. So you don't want to actually take these stalks, which there's probably a high percent of moisture, and till them in, because then you get more weeds and you have those stalks in there that take years to break down, just like corn. Sorghum's a really bad soil builder. Sunflower seeds, takes years to break that down. This, not so much. And you can imagine with all those roots going through here and pushing through the soil, look how crumbly the soil is when you get within that root structure. Those roots break apart the soil, they lift the soil, they aerate the soil, and that's all great goodness for any of the plants that follow, including our Rut Zone, or in about 2 weeks when we kill this, terminate it when this buckwheat's more like belly high, and then we wait 7 to 10 days and put the rest of our fall crops in the form of our Big Boost Brassica and the fall power greens. So this is the first half of our mix. This will be a great addition. The Rut Zone itself, the peas we're targeting, and when this buckwheat is young and growing into August, the deer love to pick on these tops at that time because the weeds are starting to reach maturity and turn brown, not offer anything to the deer. The peas especially, they love to hit early. They vine up both the buckwheat and the beans. And then this buckwheat grows pretty fast and helps nurse along those soybeans and to keep them from getting picked on. But then those soybeans, they'll still be green into October, end of October. Deer love to pick on them. They'll start hitting them then. But then those pods will follow in November. So we'll have pods and beans going into November, December. So we're really targeting November with this mix. And the tillage radish is their first Brassica family member that the deer eat. They eat the radish first, long before purple top and green globe that we have in our other mixes. And then they eat the top sooner too. So that's more of that early to mid-season. Beans are more mid-season to late. And then we have the peas and the buckwheat for early. So that entire mix offers something really targeting the Rut Zone. End of October, November for that perfect mix. And that'll be half of all our food plots this year. It'll be about 7.5 acres is what I told it in my head this morning laying in bed. So we can't wait to get that in. And we can't wait to bring it to you, show you guys what that looks like. And from soil building to making sure we have the middle of our hunting season covered. You know, really, if you feed the deer a lot going into the season and into their lean months, which are November, December, January, February, March, you give them a full belly going into the winter. That's worth more than throwing carbs out for them to eat during the winter time to give them energy. You want to fill their bellies full, take them in great health into the winter. And then of course, we're layering a lot of rye on all these plantings that goes into the spring. So as soon as spring greens up, that rye is the first thing that greens up in the entire habitat more than anything else. The alfalfa surrounding here, our clover on our plantings, that gives them the needed nutrition right after. That's the most missed time in the deer woods, that time of year. And then that starts our rotation. Then we get that rye in the spring, putting goodness into the soil. And then we put the buckwheat more mid to late May. And then we're starting the whole process again. And then we're managing our weeds. You can see it looks pretty good in here. And we'll certainly kill any weed that's in here. And we're going to start our fall process tomorrow on July 2nd and get our new Rut Zone in. Hope you guys can try that out. If you don't have a drill and you don't have buckwheat that's tall enough, you can actually disc your soil, till it all up, try to practice as much weed control ahead of time. A lot of times we'll spray something like that Liberty Ultra or 2,4-D and Gly, wait 10 days, disc it up, till it up, throw your seed down in the ground, disc it into the soil, a lot of times twice, call the packet twice, and all those seeds germinate really well, especially when they're covered up by a little bit of soil, and then also call the packed and held into a firm seed bed like that. So hope you guys understand that. We're really excited about this year, and I hope you guys are too. It's a new product for us, so I can't wait to show it to you. It's something that brings me back to my roots. We call it McGreens because I wanted to honor Mike McFadden, and he's the one I believe that came up with that mix. And so that was pretty cool. That's back in my early food plotting days. Getting to know food plotting and experimenting and then really the green base of everything that's followed. Every WHS blend that's followed came from those roots, trying to offer as much green and diversity and attraction as you could during the heart of the season without putting too much food during the summertime. when they need it the least, and when it can actually hurt you by building that summer fawn and doe fawning ground herd. So we're excited. Dylan, are you excited to see that?
Oh yeah.
We'll get a lot of
over it.
Yeah. We'll get a lot of footage of that going forward and what it looks like. We can't wait to bring it to you, and like Dylan said, we can't wait to hunt over it. So that's part of our best food plot mix. I'll go over that more completely in our 2025 best food plot mix, and some slanted variations depending on where you live in the country. But this fits a lot of need for anywhere in ag land. If you have large food plots up north, down in the south, your planting dates, you can move back 3 or 4 weeks, depending on, we're trying to get this in at least 100 days before our expected first frost. And I know we can accomplish that. We're not expecting frost typically till middle of October around here. It could be early October, but we're going to be in that 100 to 120 days before our expected first frost. If you're in the south, kind of plan that out accordingly for where that falls in. And you'll even get a better break because fawns are still dropping in June and July, and you'll push that back a month and you're still going to be outside fawn drop, which is great. So you can allow those does to establish residency somewhere else in fawning grounds, and be the perfect complement to your food plot system. And we're going to have a whole lot of green diversity, and much more than when we had the corn the last 5 years. That's why we got rid of the corn. I'll tell you right now, if I thought corn was great, we planted nutrient-rich corn, corn with high oil content. We had some growers over in Wisconsin that helped us out with that. If I thought that was going to be the best out here, you can bet I'd be using it, recommending it to you too. But we went through the corn years up to 8.5 acres of corn in a single season, and it's just not cutting it when the deer herd is really focusing on it in more end of December and January. It's way too late then because they're not starving around here, and we missed the mark by 1.5 to 2 with corn. Again, we're trying to really focus on that rut zone timing. That's why we call it Rut Zone.